Welcome back to the Limitless Life Podcast, or welcome if you're new here. I'm your host, Brenda Johnston, and we are diving in to all things energetics, business, money, success, all the things without the fluff. That's what we do here. And today's episode is another part of my legacy series where I'm sitting down with women who are building movements and missions and businesses that are literally redefining what leadership looks like and feels like. And today's guest, Ameera Virani, is the definition of that kind of leadership. So she's got more than 2 decades in leadership, strategy, entrepreneurship, including producing and hosting global events with icons like Oprah and Deepak and Wayne Dyer and Maya Angelou, Tony Robbins. Ameera has built her career helping other people rise. But in 2020, everything shifted. And after contracting an illness that led to hospitalization and burnout, she was forced to stop. And in that stillness is when she realized that the version of success she'd built didn't match the life she actually wanted to live. So through her own journey and in serving clients, Ameera began to notice a very powerful pattern. Brilliant, accomplished women who looked successful on paper, but they were feeling quietly overextended, uncertain, unfulfilled. And her mission started to become very clear for that to change. So today, as a life design and business coach and the host of the Designed Life podcast, Ameera teaches women how to magnetize success and wealth that doesn't cost their peace so they can design lives that feel clear and confident and abundant and deeply fulfilling. So in this conversation, we are unpacking that evolution from collapse to clarity, from strategy to soul, and what it truly means to design a life and business that expand with you at every age, at every stage. Ameera, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's funny when you've been working for so many years, you sort of forget where you've been in your career at times. So to have it all summarized so beautifully is a real gift. Thank you for having me, Brenda.
You are so welcome. I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with you as a part of this legacy series. I was actually introduced to you by Jen Spiegel, who was one of my first guests in this series. And I love that because it's exactly what happens when you get in rooms with people, whether it's virtual or real life. You get all these new connections and new ideas and collaborations that are, I feel,
Mhm.
just meant to happen. So I'm pretty excited about that. I talk a lot about how our energy will always get our attention one way or
Mhm.
another. First, it's going to whisper, then it's going to nudge us, and eventually it'll take you out if you don't listen.
It's true.
And for you, I'm assuming that after that whisper and you hit the full stop in 2020, I'm assuming
Mhm.
that's what happened for you. So, can we start there? Because I always like to
Yeah.
start, I like to go backwards a bit. Can you take us back to that moment? Like, what was going on for you emotionally and energetically when you hit that full stop?
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a pivotal moment in my life. And I mean, I've had a lot of pivotal moments in my life. And if you go back far enough, like there's a lot of loss and grief, losing loved ones early on, which has really shaped who I've become today. But it's also shaped a lot of the beliefs that were being, really rooted deeply in my subconscious, in my heart. And I just wasn't aware of the impact that they would have down the road. Even though I had been really immersed in this work of personal development and growth and neuro-linguistic programming since I was, in my late teens. So it wasn't that I wasn't consciously aware of it, but I just wasn't consciously doing anything with it in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2020, I think we were sort of coming out of the pandemic where we were allowed to like go out, get back to sort of normalcy in our lives. And the pandemic had been difficult for everybody. It was really difficult to watch what it did to people. My brother, my eldest brother, actually contracted COVID and had long haul symptoms, so we were really seeing the aftermath of that in him. And my husband and I decided it was time to get the family out, go on a vacation. So we returned to one of our favorite spots, which was in Mexico. And one thing most people who know know me well know this, so I'll share it with you as well, Brenda, and your listeners, is I am not the outdoorsy girl. Okay. Like you're not going to find me hiking. Do not ask me to go camping. That's just not me. But we go to this beautiful resort and I'm at the pool and I'm at the beach momentarily for a moment. And somewhere along the ways, I got these odd bug bites. Don't know what they were, never saw it happen. It was just there. And it was a few days before coming home. We were very relaxed, had a great vacation, came home and about had it checked with my doctor who was seeing people virtually. And they assured me it was nothing to be worried about unless it was, it started to get worse and they started to heal. So I thought nothing of it. And then 3 weeks later, I contracted an illness that we all know. It's shingles. And I got it on my face and in my eye and was told I was very lucky that I didn't lose sight in that one eye because it's very rare to get it in your eye. And so I went through the treatment for that. So I spent about 10 to 15 days recovering, and the symptoms just didn't get better. Like they got worse. And so I started, because I'm very in tune with what feels right in my body and what feels wrong, I'm the person who runs to the doctor when something's wrong. Like I don't sit on it and wait for weeks. I did go looking for a diagnosis, and everyone just kept saying, you have what's known as recovering from shingles. It's going to take a while. But these symptoms kept persisting to the point where I had insomnia. I had racing heart 1 minute and then extremely low heartbeats the next minute. I would be on the cusp of fainting. I remember going out to pick up balloons for my son on I think it was my son or my daughter's birthday. And I'm standing in the balloon shop waiting to pick them up and literally thought I was going to just fall over. Like I couldn't even stand up. And I kept chasing the diagnosis, kept being told it was just nothing wrong, blood work's normal. And then I was finally diagnosed, but it turned out to be a misdiagnosis of having Lyme disease. Except no one could figure out where I would have gotten Lyme disease. So, anyway, anyone who has Lyme disease, my heart literally breaks open for them because it can be a very debilitating disease. It turns out I didn't have Lyme, but I had a lot of similar symptoms. And I finally found a doctor who was able to treat me for what they thought was Lyme. But again, my symptoms kept persisting. So I was just in a tailspin. I actually thought that something was very wrong with me and I was going to potentially die. And I had that belief because of all the experiences of death and loss of people early on in my life. So I finally got to see a specialist. He confirmed for me that I did not have Lyme, but he did confirm that whatever had bit me way back then on my vacation had caused some sort of, whether it was a poison or a toxin or something in my system that was kind of just making its way through and wreaking havoc in my body. And so they did have to put me on a treatment for a few weeks, and that cleared up everything. So I was very fortunate to have gotten a misdiagnosis that, the treatment was actually what in the end ended up really saving me. So that was sort of a lucky, unfortunate incident. So I get better and I decide in that time frame, I'm like, I'm done wasting time. This has really opened my eyes and I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of being afraid of something goes wrong in my body and I think I'm going to die. I make that very quick trip to death's door in my mind. And I thought I'm done with that. And so I started really searching, what can I do to understand where this comes from and how to change my belief around this. And so I started doing all the work that I knew how to do from being in the industry for so long. And I started to reshape my beliefs around death, dying, illness. I really started to focus my mindset. So every day I was doing intentional work on not just affirmations, but really believing that I do embody health and looking for examples of that in my life and looking for examples of abundance and love and good fortune and all of the gifts that I'm given in my life and really embodying that energy so that I could start to change the way I feel and at the end change the results that I was receiving or that I was calling in. So I did that work and started to get much better. I decided to do my life coaching certification because that's what I knew I wanted to do as a part-time business to start with. My oldest brother was very supportive and even said, do it. We'll put you on our stages because he was still doing events. And in 2022, I was out with my family for an evening and came out of a theater and got a call from my other brother that my eldest brother had passed away. And like I simply remember asking my husband to pull the car over to the side of the road, and it was raining. I remember that so vividly. And I got out of the car and I just started like I was almost convulsing. It was just this visceral reaction. And for the next weeks and months of grief, I started to spiral again into all the old stories, all the old beliefs came flooding back. And I really had to work on my own nervous system safety, my own beliefs, my own story while managing through grief. And it was through that, there was a through line in that time of my life that was just our time is so precious and we can't take it for granted. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, I'm going full in. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to grow it. But this is what I'm going to help women do because we shouldn't have to walk through life carrying our old beliefs that were passed on to us and then working ourselves and stretching ourselves so thin. Because the truth is, had I not been so burnt out, I likely would have managed that illness very differently. And then getting to a place in life where you are going to sometimes and going to have to navigate grief and loss. And so how do we create a an environment and a support system for ourselves so that when we do get faced with those incidents in life, we have the mindset, we have the beliefs, we have the tools and strategies for how to manage and how to come through it on the other side stronger and more resilient. And so that's sort of what brought me to the work that I do now, which is coaching women in this space.
That story is incredible and has so many layers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it also opens up, I could go down the whole path of like needing to really advocate for our own health.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's so much in that. And especially with the grief piece and the working through the fears around death and then having the grief. How would you say that that loss actually started to, and maybe it did and maybe it did it deepen your relationship with legacy and purpose, like having to deal with the grief?
Yeah, I would say it definitely did because I had to come to a peace. I had to come to peace with the fact that sometimes life does end before we hope it will, before we plan for it to. And the people in my life have been taken early. Like, you know, my sister was 49, my brother was 59. My father passed when he was 40. So for me, it was just how do I want to live my life and how do I want my children to live and my husband to live and how do I want them to remember me? What do I want to leave behind? But also what do I want to live? Like what kind of legacy do I want to live today? Because I don't believe legacy is just something you leave. It's what you model. It's what you put out into the world today. It's what causes ripple effects in the world that we live in. And so it became clear that even though I was already working in the nonprofit space, so I felt really connected to the work I was doing. But for me, it was like there was something burning that was just like, it's more than that. It's more. And I have such a beautiful relationship with women in my life. Like I've always been really blessed to have good friends and sisterhood. Like I've never had women in my life who've ever tried to bring me down or, you know, pulled me apart. Like I've seen that with some people. I've heard those stories. I've been blessed to not have experienced that. So for me, it just came very naturally to want to serve women. And I think at the center of it all for me was like this picture of my sister going, she didn't get to live that full entirety of her life. And so how would I want to serve someone like her?
Mm,
And it did. It made me think about purpose and legacy. And I don't believe we all just necessarily have one purpose in life. I think your purpose can be whatever you choose. It can be something you love to do. It can be something you learn to do and become excellent at. That can be your purpose. But I think at the heart of all of us, there's just this one common purpose, and that's to love one another. I think that's what we come from, that's what we return to. And if you can infuse that into your work, into how you live and how you show up for yourself and others, then you've won at the game of purpose in my eyes.
Mm, yeah, yes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting that you say that about the women. I'm one of the people who experienced women not being great, and at an early age developed a lot of beliefs around, oh, don't work with women because they're always going to try to cut you down. And I had to change those beliefs. And now I have amazing women in my life. But it's interesting how our beliefs do shape things. What I
Mm-hmm.
there's so much I love about this story, but what I really like is that after being forced to stop, you didn't just rush back into something, and you really took a look at things and started to design your life with this beautiful, powerful intention. And then you became the life coach that you wanted to do. And it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to change careers. It was so intentional. And it was really about reclaiming who you wanted to, I don't even want to say who you wanted to be, who you were becoming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's so powerful. What other, like, when did you start to realize? So you start doing all of these things, you start doing the training, you start your business. When did you start to realize that this wasn't just personal for you? It was going to be the foundation for your next chapter of work.
Mm-hmm. I would say I think I knew that. I think we all know inherently when something is right. I mean, in the work you do too, I'm sure you know that, when you start doing work or even a project or activity that lights you up, that like the time just flies and it feels like you're flowing and, you could just do it for hours and hours. Like that's the way I felt after I would get off a coaching call. And at first I started with just one-on-one clients. I had a few clients because I was working full time. I also knew in my job that that was the part I loved. Like I had a group of women that I worked with, and our best conversations were when we were talking about, how to help each other in our work, right? And I just felt like those are the conversations that were just so soul filling, but very natural. And so I think that for me, I knew it, but I had that fear mindset around, will it become something that I can do full time? Will it be something that I could make money and help support my family? I'm very fortunate to have a very loving and supportive husband who said, go for it, do it, work on it part time. And that's what I started to do. And that's when I met Jen of Becoming Iconic. I'm going to give her a shout out here because she's such an incredible woman and mentor.
She's freaking incredible.
She is. She is. I love her to bits. And so I started working with her as a mentor. I went through her agency. I said, okay, I share this with Jen as like, I love aesthetically pleasing things. So I don't like the scrappy, and also I'm not good at the scrappy do-it-yourself marketing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to invest in the agency. So there was a lot of investment happening and I couldn't see where it was going to, I wasn't sure. Like I still had this bit of uncertainty around, oh, I really hope this ends up being something profitable, right? Like every business entrepreneur who goes into business wants that sort of certainty piece. And so I start doing the work and everything's going along, branding's getting done. I'm starting to get a few more clients and I have this plan. I have this plan. And I'm putting it all out there. And I'm like, when I have X amount of money in the bank, and when I have X number of clients, and when I will leave my full-time job and I will do this full time. And my husband was like, great, you should do this full time. I'm like, when the kids get older and they go off to school, I'm going to want something that I love. So all the whens went out into the universe. And 18 months after I had started a new job in a nonprofit industry that I loved, I was doing work for women's equity in the workplace. Again, so everything's like just really beautifully threaded together. And I get laid off 18 months later.
Mm.
So I lose my job and I spiral for a moment. And my husband says to me, and I God bless him for doing this, but in the moment, I hated him for it. He said, well, you kind of asked for this. I said, with all the empathy, and he was very empathetic about losing the job, but he says, you did ask to do this full time. And I'm like, oh my God, look at you holding the mirror up.
Mm,
And and he was right. And so I decided then that I'm not going to identify this whole thing as being unemployed and go down that poor me moment. This is happening for me. I asked for it. And we all know you can put out what you want, but you don't get to decide when it's going to show up or necessarily how it's going to show up for you. We just have to be open to receiving it. And that's when I went full time into the business. And I've had these nudges of like, oh, I should just look for something. Like I should look for a part-time job to have, more steady income.
mm,
Every time I go to look, it's almost like something in me just shuts down. That's the only way to describe it. Every time I need to work on my business, I'm all in. Like there has not been a day since I lost my job where I have not gotten up early, gotten dressed for work, showed up in my office, even for the stuff I'm not great at and that I don't like to do. But
mhm.
I do it with passion because I know for me, the end result is I get to sit across from a woman and help her design her life.
Yeah, girl, we have some parallels here. I also came from corporate, but it took me 10 years. I had a 10-year side hustle. I was like, when this happens, when I do. I also wasn't clear on what I was creating. I also had not had entrepreneurs in my life. I had no
Mhm.
idea how to build a business. But it's true. When we set the intention and go all in within 18 months, I mean, after the 10 years, I knew it was time to go. And I worked full time, and then I went to my office in the after hours to work with clients. And I was like, I could feel it in my bones, in my soul,
Yeah.
that that's what was meant for me. And it's hearing you say the same thing. I'm like, yes. And
Yeah.
you go through those moments of like, ah! And I mean, I left corporate when I was 43, which was
Mhm.
terrifying. I had just got divorced. It was back in 2018. So I left, and then within a year, the world closed down. I was like, what am I
Right.
doing?
Yeah.
So it's so powerful. And I want all the women listening to this because I know there are so many women who are going through a reinvention, who want to do something, who maybe are reconnecting with themselves. It is possible at any age. And I
Mhm.
truly believe in our 40s and our 50s and our 60s, we're just getting started. We are just stepping into our purpose. Like, oh, I love hearing this from you. It makes me so excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the midlife, it's so interesting. I feel like, and I had this question. Some people did ask me, people who truly care about me said, why do you want to start a business now? I'm 51, so I got into it full time when I was 50, but I was doing it part time before then. And everybody would say, you have a good job. Why do you want to, and you just got better. You were sick. Why do you want to stretch yourself again? And I said, I'm doing it with a lot of intention and with care for myself. And also when you're doing something you're so passionate about, it doesn't, I mean, you have to be a little careful because you can sort of walk the edge of burnout, right? From a
Mm-hmm.
physical perspective, because you could spend your whole day in your business. There's always something to do. And so you do have to be very intentional about how you invest your time. But I did have that question and I thought, well, if not now, when? Number one. If not now, then I'm always going to wonder what if.
Mm-hmm.
And I already have some what ifs in my life. So I don't want to let another 2, 3, 4, 5 years go by as quickly as we know they do and look back and go, oh, if I had just started it then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other piece for me was I was being very intentional because I was coming into the coaching industry again when everybody was starting to see that kind of trickle down. Like it was revenue was starting to come
Mm.
down a little. There was like that. I know during the pandemic, there was like a big swell in the coaching industry, and then it sort of started to dissipate. And so I knew I was walking in while there were some exits happening. And that's kind of a weird phenomenon, right? To come in when people are exiting. So a
Mm.
lot of people were questioning that for me. They were like, it's so saturated. It's so... I said, I feel like sometimes we make excuses like saying it's so saturated. I mean, if, Nike had said that, or Adidas had said that, or Puma had said that, or any of the brands that we use now had looked and said, oh, there's already, 10 shoe companies. Why would we create another one? Like, to me, there's just no limitations. There's no lack. There's so much abundance out there.
And now you know why my podcast is called The Limitless Life.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's
It's a perfect
exactly it.
name.
It's looking at it and looking at all of the possibilities of the potential and not just focusing on the lack and the scarcity and the fear and all of the things. And I'm not going to blow smoke up people's bums. Like that's hard sometimes.
Mhm. It
Like
is.
it's a thing.
Yes.
But yeah, it's interesting to watch how people react to certain things. I want to talk about this though, because you're 50 and fearless. I want to talk because out of all of this stuff, the illness, the reinvention, the loss, this next version of your work, launching your business, and then creating this mission, this statement, this 50 and fearless. It's such a really bold and beautiful kind of energy behind it. And I know it's going to resonate with so many women who are done playing small. What does 50 and fearless really mean to you? Like, where did that come from?
I think 50 and fearless is you've got to this place in your life where you've already walked so many pathways that have had twists and turns. You've most definitely navigated bumps in the road. Resilience is already part of your legacy, and you're okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you got through it all. When I look back at my life and I think about, I mean, I know so many people who have stories that would make me cry. Like, they've walked through so many things. I think about my own mom, like what she's been through being an immigrant to this country with less than a grade 8 education, losing her husband, having to find work to support 4 children, then to lose 2 children in their adult. Like, I look at her and think, if you met my mom today, she is the most gorgeous, lovely, kind, loving woman. She never complains about anything. She will love you like you're her own child. Like, to me, it's like if you can walk through to your 50s or beyond and you have survived the things you've survived, girl, you are good. Like, whatever you choose to do, whether you thrive at it or it doesn't work. I don't believe in failure because you're going to learn something and you're going to pick
Mm-hmm.
that up and you're going to walk with that experience now. But I believe that in our 50s and beyond, we have this beautiful gift of the insight that comes from hindsight, and we get to share that. And I'm a little daring in saying I think it's a responsibility. I do. I think it's a responsibility for us to take that experience and look back at the women coming behind us and saying, let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me even just hold space for you. I don't need to tell you what to do, but let me hold space for you and give you some insight, some wisdom that may be able to not necessarily lighten your load because we can't save anybody from the
No.
experiences that they need to go through, but we can show them it's possible, and we can be there to be the sounding board, I think of Maya Angelou and when I met her, and she was this sage who just walked in and you just went, she didn't even have to say a word. You could just look at her and go, you know everything. Like, you could just see that in her. And I do think that that's just a beautiful gift that we get to pass on in our 50s and beyond.
Energy speaks before your mouth even opens. And
Hmm.
that's her in a nutshell.
Hmm.
Why do you think so many women struggle to give themselves permission to start over?
I honestly believe that that's conditioning. Um, oh man, that's a big question, right? If you were to look back to how women have been conditioned for centuries, and then we just carry it forward, and it's not any woman's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be specific. It's not any woman's fault. We learned from our mothers what they knew to give us.
Mm-hmm.
And in giving us what they gave us, they received it from their parents, etc. So it gets passed down the line. And so we tend to absorb the things that may not serve us in our lives anymore, but we absorbed it at a young age. We witnessed it. And now the greatest thing we have is the knowledge and the awareness on how to go back and question it and change it. We don't have to carry those old narratives anymore. So I think we've been conditioned to one, carry it. We've been conditioned to stay safe, and that's human. That's a human instinct, right? We are wired for safety. So anything that's outside of what we know, we tend to, unless we know for sure that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, we're not going there.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can start to get curious around some of those old beliefs and those old conditionings and even take one step. So when I work with clients, it's never about, you don't have to leave your world behind. I think that's some of the fear is that, but I've built this beautiful life. I've worked so hard and I don't want to give it up, but there's something else that's calling me as well. So have your life, just get curious about this piece that's calling you. I've had clients who, for them, it was getting back into artwork. For some, it was just spending more time with their friends because they hadn't, they'd kind of closed themselves off from that because they were so busy in their
Mm-hmm.
life that they forgot about their friendships. And even just those small, seemingly small changes can really change your life completely without changing your life completely, without you having to give up what you've already built.
Oh,
So I
it's
think that that's sort of where we get scared about disrupting what we've built. And I think we also get scared about how powerful we might be.
mm-hmm.
And there's some nervous system safety that has to happen because you have to be able to hold the success as well.
Absolutely.
And I also think we are still deeply fearful about what people will think and say.
Yep. I could not agree more with
Mhm.
all of that. And it's why the work that we do is so important. And
Mhm.
it's why us living the work that we do is so
Yeah.
important. Because it's like you were saying, moving into this phase of our life, we've lived some stuff
Yes.
and we now have some wisdom. I'm also 51, by the way. It's a great
Are
age.
you?
Yep.
We're twins.
Yeah, we basically are. So, yeah, I get that. And I went through this whole phase of I'm running out of time, especially when I started the business because I was 43. I'm
Mhm.
running out of
Mhm.
time. I'm almost 50. That's when you're supposed to start winding down and getting curious about, well, what if that's not the truth? Literally blew my world wide open. And moving into the 50s,
Mhm.
completely different. It's like, yeah, no, we're not running out of time.
No,
We have
no,
so
we're
much
not.
to do. So, having
Yeah.
said that, what advice would you have or what give to women at any age so that they can start living fearlessly, not by forcing things, but through this like energetic truth?
Hmm. So the first thing I will tell anyone when they're looking to make any sort of changes, start with coming back to yourself. It's not usually it's not usually the case that you have to learn something new or do something new. Sometimes you just have to unlearn some patterns that you've learned over your lifetime, and that can only be understood when you have clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's about spending time and just being really truthful and honest with yourself about what is it that I truly desire. And when I work with clients one-on-one or in the Designed Life mentorship, it's really about we spend a lot of time on clarity. So I will not I will not let a woman sit across from me and go, I want more money. I need you to be really specific. So if we're going to talk money, let's understand what's underneath the money. And if you're going to talk money, you better be really clear about how much money because your freedom number and my freedom number are going to be really different. And her freedom, I've sat in rooms with women and for them, $5,000 a month changes their
Yep.
life. For some, 2,000 changes their life. For some, 100,000. So it's being really specific, but understanding beyond the very tangible thing that you want, what's underneath that. Like, what do you really desire? And it always boils down to a feeling. You know this
Mhm.
probably through your work. It always boils down to how we want to feel. And so if we can get clear on the feelings, then we can start to move forward by you don't need the thing to make you feel that way. Let's get you the feeling now,
Yeah.
right? So let's work on that energetics piece right away and create some nervous system safety because it could be that the very thing you say you desire is in conflict with that belief that you've been carrying forward for generations. And it could be in conflict with something that you truly value, right? So,
Mhm.
women who want to start a business, I had this conflict that I had to work through. I want to start a business, but I also value time with my family and my kids. So the business gives me the flexibility to be home, but I'm putting a lot of hours in, which is taking me away from my kids, or I'm doing speaking events that are taking me away from my kids. So how do I create synergy so that they both can work together?
Mhm.
And that's the kind of work we start to go through, but it all starts with clarity. And if you can't, you have to be able to admit to yourself what you truly desire, not what your neighbor has or your sister has or your husband tells you you should want or Instagram's telling you you should want. And I struggle with that all the time. All the time.
Oh, yes. One of my favorite questions to ask people is that money question because most of us have never thought of it. And it's, well, I'm going to say what I think I should say based on what I should want. Not,
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that I'm greedy.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. And as women, we were taught. I mean, I know from a cultural perspective as well, but as women generally, we were taught to be humble, to be quiet, to behave, to dress a certain way, to speak a certain way. When I was, and I'm sure maybe you experienced this too, when I was growing up, it was like these are the types of careers you might want to explore, and
Yeah.
they were limited, right? I took a business degree because my oldest brother suggested a business degree. He had this big dream of becoming a stockbroker and making him rich. And so I remember studying finance to please him. I was terrible at math. I really struggled
I
with
was
that degree. I
terrible
mean,
at math too.
I got it. I got the degree. I'm really proud of it. And it serves me well in my business today. But at the time, I remember finishing university, having a job interview, completely bombing the interview because I couldn't remember the formulas in fourth year finance. And I sat on the steps of one of the big banks after that interview and I cried because I didn't know why I had gone this path and what I was going to do with my life.
Mm,
And all because I made a decision based on what someone else wanted from me. So you got to decide what you want because
yeah.
you have to live your life. Nobody's going to live it for you.
And it's scary. I was an artist. I wanted to be an artist. All I heard growing up, artists don't make money. Artists don't make money. Then I wanted to be in fashion. You don't know how to sew. So then I got into advertising and marketing, which I loved for many
Mhm.
years. But then the belief became, well, my parents spent all this money
Mhm.
to put me through school. And now I'm just going to up and do something completely different. And now it's all fused together and makes sense to me. But like back then, it didn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I think you make a valid point. You make a really good point, though. I think for anybody who's on a path right now and who's like, oh, maybe that's not the right thing. At the end of the day, it all does get connected. I think you're going to end up where you're meant to go. Like the
Mhm.
universe is going to meet you where you are and it's going to open up the doors that need to be open for you, but you may not see it right now.
No.
And the only thing I'll say is the faster you can get to choosing you and what you desire, the faster you'll get to that timeline. You'll still get to that timeline, it just might take a little longer.
Yeah, It's true. Mm, love this. One of the reasons I started this legacy series is because I truly believe, kind of like what you were saying, legacy isn't what we leave behind. I feel like it's how we live right now. And your story just, it embodies that perfectly. You've literally designed a new chapter at every turn of your life. And it's beautiful, kind of like you're talking and I can see these lines just connecting. What is this whole, like, what impact do you hope that the designed life and the 50 and fearless is going to leave on the women and leadership? What's the impact? What's your hope there?
My hope is that the designed life is where women will choose to live intentionally and consciously create the future they want, and that they will then teach their children how to do it. Because I don't believe that we can change the narrative for future generations if we don't start with us. And I've my daughter's going to laugh when I say this. She's going to say, "You sound so old when you say this." But I think I've been around I've been around long enough to go, I saw what it was like when my mom was working. And I saw what it was like when my sister was working. And I've been in the corporate space and the entrepreneurship space long enough to see that women, the boardrooms were not built or designed for women. And we still have a long way to go. And so it makes me really happy and proud when I see women building businesses, because you are building your own boardroom tables. You're not waiting for someone to invite you to one. You're creating your own, and please put more women around your boardroom table.
Oh, I just got like full body shivers when you said that. And
It's
my head is
it's
tingling,
it's
everything about
so
that.
amazing what women can do. I mean, it truly is. And I've witnessed this when I've traveled as well, when you see villages where women are the center, and they really do. When you look at like countries where microfinancing loans went out to women in business because women lift the entire village. And it's just who we are. It's what we do. It's what, and so I would say that's what the designed life is really about, is just you choosing intentionally and knowing that it's not just about the plan, but like when you combine the beliefs, the neuroscience behind it, the energy safety, so that when you reach that success, you are so ready to hold it, like no one can shake your belief in yourself. And now you get to pass that down to your children, and they get to grow up with a completely different narrative of how women live and lead.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen at any age. So I'm excited about that for us and for women, but also for, for not just for women and girls, but for boys too. Like I look at how my son is and how, how supportive he is, and he gets to just watch mom and dad both do work that we really love. And I think that that's just the greatest example you can give to your kids.
Mm, I love that. Before we wrap up, I always have one question that I ask every guest who is on my show. What does living a limitless life mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. For me, living a limitless life is believing in yourself, believing in your dreams, and being in pursuit of the life that gives you joy and abundance
Mm,
and fulfillment and peace. I think if you can live that life 9 days out of 10, you are living the limitless life,
mm,
because there's no end to those feelings. There's no end to feeling joy and abundance and fulfillment. And that's not in what you do, it's in who you are.
oh, yes. Mira, thank you so much for such an honest and powerful conversation. Your story is so much proof and evidence that your next chapter is never too late. It's literally just waiting for you to stop surviving and start designing. For everybody listening, you can connect with Ameera tune into her Design Life podcast. I'm going to have all the links in the show notes. I believe you have a workshop coming up.
I do.
I'm going to link that up for people. It's a visioneering workshop. Until next time, here's to creating your limitless life. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.